Forgive me. That part of the message is missing from the plea. Anyway, continuing on. Having this discussion with a person I know. We were talking about the being made in the likeness and image of God, and what that must mean. And then saying, well, but look at us. If we're made in the likeness and image of God, what's He? And the answer to that question is Jesus Christ. We know the Father by what we see through the Son. We know the Father based on what the Son showed us. In the Old Testament, we get to see God as the ruling king, judge, jury, executioner, and yet at the same time we get to see Him as loving magistrate, taking His people from nothing, raising up a people who were no people, and turning them into a people, and then taking a people who got too big for their britches and making them not a people, or half a people, or a quarter of a people, and then back up to more people, all the while tending to His garden very, very diligently, because the goal that He's after is, let us make man in our likeness and image. And that goes way beyond, let's pull some dirt out of the ground and breathe the breath of life into it. Ah, there they are. Oh, they look just like us now. Isn't that great? Uh-oh, behold, man has become as one of us. Uh-oh, he's starting to change now. He's starting to become like you. I didn't want him to become like you. I want him to become like me. And after a while, mankind gets a little bit confused and lost and demonic and violent and messed up, and then falls and then rises and then falls and then rises and falls and rises, and has no example. And from a certain perspective, they have no example. They have the law. They have the judgments. They have the penalties. They have, thou shalt live, thou shalt die. But where's the example? So God, in His generosity, He says, oh, well, here's some guys who were kind of in my likeness and image. There's this guy David over here, man after my own heart. This man Moses over here, never spake a man face to face with God like Moses. There's this Elijah fellow over here. I took him for a ride. There's this Enoch guy over here. Liked him a lot, took him home. I have a few examples floating around for you. These things are written for your examples. All of them. If they fail, they're an example. If they succeed, they're an example. But they're one here, one there. One day you're Samson ripping the gates off the cities of your enemies. The next day you're Samson, the enemy's ripping the gates off of you. Oops. Next minute, you're in the grinding house. Next minute, you're out of the grinding house and they're in the grounded house. Literally. Grinding for grinding. You ever think about that? That's a pretty even judgment, I thought. But the point is, they're examples. They're all examples. But they are all examples with one intent. Point us towards Christ. What we see in the Old Testament is a little dim reflection of, behold, we shall make man in our likeness and image. There's a little piece of my image, and there's a little piece of your image, and there's a little piece of my image, and there's a little piece of your image. This is why man got kicked out of the garden, because God just couldn't have all that mess in His garden. And we couldn't go after the tree of life and do this forever. He had to make sure that we were on a clock. Life's up. We had to make sure that He could get maximum yield out of minimal efforts. Or maybe that's minimal yield out of maximal. No, I think it's probably right the first time. All of that, and we are human. And He is God. And we live by mercy and grace. These examples from the Old Testament, whether we read the harsh warnings of the prophets, or even the loving warnings of the prophets, or the blessings and prophecies of the prophets, all are examples to us to fine-tune ourselves so that our likeness and image conforms to the likeness and image He wants us to have. There's a lot of people running around with all kinds of conclusions as to how character should be made, shouldn't be made, what it takes to make character. And most people miss the point, in my opinion. Character is made by God. Character is not made by man. Character is made by God working a human being into His likeness and image by direct intervention of Himself into that character. But man makes himself into the likeness and image of God, as it were, by choosing what characteristics he wishes to have. And everybody's running around saying, well, I think you should have those characteristics. Well, I think you should have those characteristics. Well, I know what your problem is. Your problem is, and I know what your problem is, and I know exactly what God is. No. And the truth of the matter is, a lot of it is psychobabble guesswork. And a lot of it is, I knew a friend who had a friend who was a friend, and the friend of the friend was this way and left and sideways, and this is the way this goes, and that's the way this goes, so therefore I conclude you should go this way. That'll make you like God. And so one man think it this way, and another man think it that way, and everything we hear, everything we read, everything that's in the news falls into the category of, behold, the man has become as one of us. Today in the news. Quite frankly, the only thing that isn't that way is the weather. It just changes whenever it wants to anyway. But mankind changes almost as fast. However, we have before us the image of God, Jesus Christ. The second part of this message, 10 attributes of Christ, a measuring rod. Call it 10 characteristics of Christ. Call it 10 parts of the image of the overall stained glass window as Christ. This is the little blue piece. This is the little red piece. Put it all together, you get this really beautiful stained glass image of Christ. This is the weave of a man where his threads went in and out through the carpet like this. And when it was done and cut from the loom, perfect tapestry. Jesus Christ, we talked about the first time, was compassion. He was compassion personified. Compassion. You know, sometimes when we say we have compassion, we don't have compassion. Our compassion is not God's compassion. Sometimes we have God's compassion. God's compassion will compel us to do things. Not always what we think we should do in the name of compassion. Jesus Christ was pure love. Sometimes we look at love and we go, here's what love is. We should do love this way or that way. And the problem is, there's many different ways for somebody to say, call this love. You know, the parent that overpunishes their child in the name of love, as an example. What happens when a parent corrects their child incessantly? Because out of love, they want them to be just like perfect, which is really nothing more than a dark side intent to make them like Christ. Perfect. Or not like themselves. Behold, the man has become as one of us. Well, I'm not going to have my kid be like one of them. So I'm going to make sure, absolutely certain. And yet pure love, like God has, seems to get in there, roll up its sleeves, get dirty with the kid. You know what I'm saying? Seems to get involved. Seems to reach out, pick up, lift up, open arms and say, prodigal, prodigal, where art thou? All the night long, and then he goes in bed, not home yet. Prodigal, prodigal, where art thou? And goes to bed. And then one day goes, prodigal, prodigal, where art thou? And a man's walking across the hill. Because God is bringing back the son to the father. That was the promise. He will reconcile the sons back to their fathers. He's in the reconciliation business. But Jesus Christ, as he's walking about, as we see him through the gospel, so much of the time he becomes almost not human to us anymore. We see this miracle-working, superpowered Mr. Minister dude with perfection, and behold, number 2, number 3, number 5, number 7, number 8, number 10, number 15. Behold! We don't see the man. We see the master. We see the perfect. And we don't realize that what we're staring at is the parts of him that are the image that we get to conform to, because that's the promise that God gave. I do not have to look at my flesh 24/7. In fact, I'm mandated to forget it. In fact, I'm mandated to baptize it. What is baptism? Immersion in water. Oh, what a nice religious way to say that. Let me put that to you in a little bit stronger terminology to get the point across. Drown the turkey. Drown him. Oh, guys, I got to change and conform him and mold him and change him. And no, you don't. No, you don't. You say, this drowned. I'm walking up here. Why can we say that? Because Jesus Christ himself went into the water, though he had no sin, to demonstrate, follow my example. See this? It's going to die. It's going to die. So symbolically, I'm going to show you it's going to die. I'm going to go into the water. You shall have no testimony except Jonah in the water 3 days and 3 nights. A little crossover there if you caught it. I think most people haven't caught that. But it's also, look at the visual. Remember, he's a walking, living example, tupos, type, being of us. And he says to John, who says, you should be baptizing me, he says, no, suffer it to be so, for this is right. I am Israel. I am man. I am the Son of Man. I am, look at me. I'm going into the water. And when I come out of the water, what does the Father say? Behold, my beloved Son, in whom I'm well pleased. Yes, that's right. Thank you. Keep going. Why did he do all that? Oh, I don't know. He's a mystery. Big fat mystery. Who can know it? No big fat mystery. A man who's a walking, living, perfect type, simultaneously with being a walking, living, perfect Ark of the Covenant, simultaneously with being a perfect, walking Son of Man, descendant of the genealogies all the way back to Adam, yet not, that we might look at him, stare at him, stop staring in our mirror, that we might heed the warnings, hear the warnings, look at the warnings of the old, and everything in the old, and say, behold the new. This old was to point me to this new, that I might live in the new, not in the old. However, the old stands there as a warning. If you don't choose new, and you don't choose to baptism, you don't choose to immerse it, and if you don't choose to be immersed in the Spirit, covered in it, then you're going to have some problems. But here's your example. Jesus Christ, attributes. And here's an attribute that I believe stronger and stronger and stronger every day. That we are not, we, the church, mankind, we, myself, you, we, but we in the we category, are still not getting the point what this attribute is. We get glimpses of it and then we change its definition and go be something else. And that is the term spiritual. Look around you. Listen to the radio. Listen to your brothers and sisters and listen to what they describe as spiritual. And then ask yourself the question, was it from the Spirit of God? Because that's the only spiritual there is that's spiritual. Everything else is religious. Everything else is redefined spirituality. Everything else is pseudo, psycho, babble, psychic baloney. I listened to a woman yesterday on the radio. I'm going to deviate for half a second. To illustrate a point. I listened to a woman yesterday on the radio with a slightly Britishy sort of accent on a radio broadcast that I just tripped across, and a lady was on the other end to call her in, and she asked the lady on the phone, on the radio, she says, do you think you could do a reading on me right now? And I went, a reading? Oh boy. And this nice British accented lady goes, well, normally I'm in my studio when that happens, and normally I can't just do that, but I've never done it on radio. Sure, I'll give it a try. Okay, well, I don't know. Just a minute here. Let me get into my spirit here. Just a minute. Oh yeah. There it is. Yeah, I see it. In your former life, talking to a woman. In your former life, well, let me ask a question before I start. Do you have problem with indecision? Are you having tremendous problem with indecision? You have a difficult time making choices and decisions? Oh, you have no idea. I mean, blah, 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 blah. That's what I thought. Yeah, okay, well, let me explain this. There's another piece of it. Okay, there's another piece of it. I got it. Okay, there's another piece of it. I got it. In your former life, actually about 3 incarnations ago, you was a judge. You were male. You were a judge. In fact, you were a very rich judge. In fact, you was a very rich judge who made a lot of judgments about the people because you were very famous. But the problem was your judgments were wrong. You tended to not make judgments in favor of the poor people. You tended to make some really bad judgments. Blah, 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 blah. And so now you're working out the fact that you made a lot of bad decisions back then. And so now you're finding you don't get to just make decisions. You got to work through this a little bit. But good news, you're in your last incarnation on this problem. So you're going to conquer this one. Spiritual. I'm summarizing. I've done a pretty good job summarizing, by the way. Some of that was almost quotable. Then the guy that's running the radio show gets on and goes, wow, that's incredible. I've never seen such blah, 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 Then a commercial comes on somewhere behind it. I don't know if it was even on the same channel or another channel. And it's a piece of a commercial, not a commercial, but a person talking about something they were advertising for, trying to sell or whatever. And they start talking about the Aborigines and how they get into their Holy Spirit, And I was amazed how dedicated they get into their Holy Spirit. And he goes on and explains, I went, their Holy Spirit? Oh. No man cometh to the Father except through the Son. For there are many out there who would call themselves Christos. There are many out there who are calling themselves Spirit. There are many out there who say light. Blessed be. There are many out there who say these same words. But is it Jesus? Will it set them free? Truth will set you free. Will it show what Jesus showed when he said, I am, to borrow a phrase later spoken of him, a quickening spirit? Our flesh we draggeth with us all the day long. As a ball and chain we drag our flesh along. No, I'm not going to do a poem. I'll skip it. However, if you can understand that Jesus didn't drag any flesh along with him, and you understand he then said, here's the goal, here's the point, and if you accept that being a man, he gave us that as an example to us, and quit whitewashing him somehow in such a way that's saying, we can never become like him because, and I don't care what your theological extract adds on top of that line at the end, there are many, if you don't see him as a thing to conform to, you will not have the power to be that. Because that is a God work, not a man work. It is a God interfacing with man as man reaches for this thing he can't quite reach, called Christ. and finding the hand of God coming through the other side, grabbing them and pulling them through. That is walking in the Spirit. That puts the flesh man under. Everything else cometh of religion, not Spirit. Not what I'm about to say here. So if I can dramatize this a little bit, you'll understand why I live in so much grief. I live in grief because I look at my mortality and I say, "O wretched man that I am, who shall deliver me from this death-doomed body?" And then I look at my master and I say, "But there is no condemnation through Jesus Christ, and there shall be no more people pointing condemnations." But what does it mean to be spiritual, to go beyond taking it from the in the negative to the neutral? Spirituality takes it from zero and moves it up, and keeps moving it up, so far away that the negative goes so far down that it is as separated from you as the east is from the west. Should be. Jesus says this to a Samaritan. A Samaritan, a despised, rejected by the religious order, rejected by Israelites, scum of the earth. We don't even have dinner with them folks over there. That denomination. John 4:10, to this Samaritan. I'll read verse 9 just so you can hear what I just said in his scriptures. Then saith the woman of Samaria unto him, "How is it that thou, being a Jew, askest a drink of me, which am a woman of Samaria? For the Jews have no dealings with the Samaritans." I ain't going to go to that church. I'm not going to hang out with that person. I'm not going to go with those, because they're following what idol? What altar? What place? Over there. So who are you talking to? Why are you talking to me? You shouldn't even be talking to me. I shouldn't even be being talked to. Why are you talking to me? Oh, because God is love. This is how we'd answer it. We came to you because God is love and He wants to save your soul. And it's true. But it's so pseudo. What is it Jesus was saying when He opened His mouth and said, "Oh, well, I'll answer your question. If thou knewest the gift of God, and who it is that says to thee, give me to drink, and would have asked of Him, He would have given thee living water." Water? Really? Sir, thou hast nothing to draw with. The well is deep. From whence hast thou this living water? Art thou greater than our father Jacob? This is Jacob's well. Which gave us the well, and drank thereof himself, and his children, and his cattle? Are you greater than the man of God who founded this thing way back when? And Jesus inside is going, I just got done saying, and greater than Solomon's here. I just got done saying, and greater than David is here. I guess I might as well add to it. Yeah, greater than Jacob is here. Oh, my. Do you ever feel like a Samaritan? Do you ever feel like a half-breed Christian? Do you ever feel like the wrong denomination? Do you ever feel like, oh my God, I came out of a cult? Do you ever feel like, oh my goodness, we blew our lives to hell and back again? Do you ever feel like, we'll just leave them over there? And Jesus walks right up and says, if you'd asked me, I would have. But what are you talking about? I don't get it. Whosoever drinks of this water shall thirst again. And again. And again. And again. Now, hear me. This is a type we're locked into. A New Testament type on an Old Testament type that's pointing to the fulfillment of another type. Ready? It's not just the water he's talking about again. This is Jacob's well. The old blessing of God that sustained him and fed him, and he honored God because God gave him water when he was so thirsty, and he honored God forever by putting a well there. This is the remembrance well of the past revivals, of the foundation of Israel in the time of being Jacob. This is the old guard well. This is the ancestral memorial well. This is the Grace Baptist Church, the Lutheran Baptist Lutheran Church. I'm kidding, okay, I know. I was from a Baptist church. We were called Grace Baptist Church. Then we became so-and-so's Memorial Church. And then we became, you get my point here. This is the well that Jesus is pointing to, and he's saying, yeah, but you drink of this water, you're going to drink again. And everybody goes, yeah, he's just talking about taking a cup of water. Really? Read the rest of the discussion as it goes on, and then when the disciples show up and see what that discussion's all about, and you tell me he's just talking about water. Because like always with Christ, he does this multi-layered get me a point thing out. Yes, you're going to drink of this and you're going to get dried out again. You're going to drink out of the old well of Jacob and you're going to get thirsty again. The old blessed water. He might as well have said, manna, 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 manna. You know what I mean by that? The manna tasted good on day 1 and went rotten on day 2. So they had to have new manna on day 3 and day 4 and day 5. But God, out of his generosity and to make sure they kept his commandment, when he said, you'll have a Sabbath day of rest and you'll do no work, he gave them double manna so that they could keep their word. This is a hint, folks. God will help you keep your word if he has to do exceptions to his own miracles. But we don't believe that. We believe that somehow, some way, it's all up to us, babe. It's all up to us. No, he's saying, you're going to drink of that well, you're going to get thirsty again. You're going to drink of that well, you're going to get thirsty again. The religion you're living off is going to make you thirsty again. Whosoever drinks of the water that I shall give him shall never thirst. But the water that I shall give him shall be in him a well of water springing up into everlasting life. Powerful statement. Powerful statement. I am spirit. I am life. I am light. I am the source. I'm the well. Her next question, sir, give us this water that I thirst not, neither come hither to draw. At least she was smart enough to kind of ask the question. He did say, if you'll ask, I'll give it to you. Which is really quite good of her, you know, reaching up on that stretch your toes kind of feeling of, what is he getting at? But okay, I'll ask. Got nothing to lose. He is spiritual. He is always looking to impart that spirit to you. He's always looking to give you spirit for life. He's always looking to say, can I impart just a little bit more spirit here? Can I feed out just a little bit more God here? Can I put another drop on your tongue and keep you alive? And we always say, I better go back to Jacob's well. I know Jacob's well, it's been there a long time. It's solid, it's established. It's brick and mortar business. It's good, it's sound. No man quickly leaves the old well and goes to the new. That's ridiculous. How do you know that is really living water down at the bottom of that well? Remember, a really good well has living water way down at the bottom coming in from a feeder somewhere. You hope it's not just a teeny little lake that's going to suck itself dry in a few years. You're hoping it's a well that when you drop that bucket down there for the next 17 generations, it's always bringing in clean water. So Jesus says, behold, I am the well, without saying I am the well. And if you drink of me, you do well. A little play on words there. Jesus is trying to say, from his own attributes, from his own character, from his own source, I got the main line. I'm a walking, talking flow of spirituality. Holy spirituality. I can heal them all, deliver them all, seal them all. And I can keep all of them, and I will deliver them all to you, Father, and lose none of them, save for the one that you said I might lose. But I can deliver it, because I focus always on you, always on you, always about you, it's about you. And in the end, it flows, and it flows, and it flows, and it flows, and it's living water. That's what living water is. It's flowing constantly, constantly, constantly. All it's waiting for is a bucket. All it's waiting for is a location to land in. All it's waiting for is a roof to roll down on. All it's waiting for is a crack to get into. He is spiritual. His mind is looking. He's looking at this Samaritan, and he's a Jew, and he should be saying, "Ooh, Samaritan! Oh, that person just doesn't bear witness with my spirit." He doesn't look at him and go, "Oh, that poor dear, on the 5th incarnation already. Wonder if I can get him through the next 2. He doesn't look at him and say, "Oh, I'm sorry you were abducted by aliens when you were 5. It's really too bad." And he doesn't say, "Oh, deceitfully wicked, a heart messed all up. Good gravy, it's going to take me at least 3 decades to unravel this one." No, he says, "Put me on, put me on, put me on." That's what Paul kept saying, put me on, put him on. See that garment right there? I'm sorry, but I have to do this. Cartoons have a better understanding of the gospel sometimes than we do in human life. I am ordinary Joe Beebly Boppy with my broom in the back room. I am Clarky, whatever my name is at the local you-know-what. My name is Brucey Deucey. Until it's time to get the job done. And then I go, put me on something. I find me a booth somewhere. And I step me into the booth and say to the Lord, "Can we build them right here? I want 3 booths." I'm doing a crossover, I know, but get my point. If I have to use modern day dim reflections that come out of the heartbeat of man that says, somehow I get the feeling we should have been able to do something like this. And they sprinkle a little bit of lie of evolution on the top of it, and they sprinkle a little bit of lie of alien and whatever on top of it, and they sprinkle a little bit of lie of this on it, because somewhere inside the heart of man is this boom, 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 boom. I'm supposed to be putting something on that changes me permanently, and I'm not supposed to be like this anymore. This is Adam. This is Adam with so deep a spiritual need, he doesn't even know how to communicate it, so it comes out in literature, in dreams, and TV shows and cartoons. But when you look at the reality of it, it's right there in front of us. This is the spiritual man. This is the quickening spirit. This is the man who says, "Let me touch you. I won't force myself on you. Come on, put your hand over here. Come on, put your hand over here. Come on, put your hand over here. Just touch me." And the woman sees the guy going through the crowd and goes, "If I can just get to that garment, if I can just get to the garment, if I can just touch the garment, just touch it." That man is living, breathing Ark of the Covenant power. And instead of me being slain for touching him, I'm going to be resurrected in newness of life because of last week's message. My last week's message, which is 2 weeks ago's message. Because when you're the walking, breathing example of what true spirituality is, all of the spirituality is death. It's just another way of stitching up the old flesh man. If you do it any other way. Whoops, I'm bleeding. Sew it back up. Bunch of human zombies walking around. Sew it back up. Bunch of human zombies. We'll apply some balm. A little bit of healing. Doing much better, thank you. Oh, where'd that blood come from? Somehow there's blood somewhere. You see where I'm going? Jesus, who is spiritual, says, "I offer you water, I offer you life." And then he goes, "Okay, tell you what, go get your husband." "I don't got no husband." Your word of knowledge must be wrong, sir. I have no husband." "I said go get your husband." "I'm sorry, but I don't have any husbands." "You're right, you have no husband." Thou hast 5. You had 5. But the one you're shacking up with right now ain't your husband. In this thou saidst truly. So we're in agreement. My word of knowledge matches your experience. Now let's get back to our topic. Oh, sir, I perceive thou art a prophet. Yeah, that's the conclusion you wanted. Okay, I'll take that. Our fathers worshipped in this mountain, and you say that in Jerusalem is the place where men ought to worship. Now we're to the theology conversations. That happens every time. A little bit of spirit's offered to you, and the first thing we ought to go is discuss our theology. And we got to work it out, and we got to find out, and we got to have this discussion, and we got to get all down to, but at the end of it, you get to Jesus going, God is a spirit. They that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. Got to get this girl back on track. She's like way off point here now. I offered you spirit. The spiritual man, as exampled by Christ, is the man who's offering you spirit. Oh, that was deep. He didn't offer you 6 ways of Sunday how to fix it. He offered you God who's the fixer of it. She was still going to be a Samaritan the next day. If she'd gotten spirit-filled that day, she'd have still been a Samaritan the next day. She still would have been looked at by everybody around her as, ooh. And God would have looked at her and gone, Because man looketh on the heart. He doesn't look as man looks. He looks on the inside, not the outside. He doesn't measure the outside that way. Because if he did, well, toast. When Jesus comes along, we wonder how could he do miracles for all these ordinary people who have never even so much as tried to study the law, says the Pharisee. These foolish people who don't realize angels aren't real, the Sadducees people. The scribes and the little religious leaders trying to figure out why this is working. Don't understand why this is working. We just know they follow after him and it's going to cost us our throne. All these puny little natural minds. While him who is spirit is showing spirit, manifesting spirit, being spiritual, and making a whole bunch of statements people don't understand because he's not talking from the natural. He's seeing it from the spirit side. When you turn your eyes on and you see from the spirit side, you see something else. There's a testimony of a woman that I read years ago where Jesus showed up as a face right next to her shoulder for several months. Just went with her everywhere she went. Just a face. And all she saw was his expression on the face in that circumstance. Wow. There's a story that I got to read here that's been dropped off. I've asked for it. Of some lady who was, in-care bound. And Jesus, because she was in-care bound, took her to different places and showed her things that he was doing in the churches. And what was coming. Okay? And I'm curious to see what she saw, because whatever it was she saw is changing people's lives when they realize this is how Jesus looks at things. This is how he looks at our worship. This is how he looks at our events. He doesn't look at things like we do. He looks out through the eyes of spirit. He is an example of a spiritual man to us that we might become spiritual. So that when it says he stands and intercedes for us forever, we can understand that we're in him and we stand with him to intercede forever. And our intercession becomes purer and purer and purer and more accurate, because we do not judge by the outward. We do not judge by the natural man. We choose to look at a human being and say, Lord, show me what you see and what I've got to feed. We're all looking at the natural instead of looking at the kernel in the inside and how to grow it. Even of ourselves, we look in the mirror. We're so busy looking in this mirror, that we don't realize we're looking not at spirit, we're looking at self, trying to figure out how to bring it up to spirit so that it won't be us anymore. And the end result is we fail. We fail. And the thing that's really hard and difficult is I worry most about those who are perfect, who have no need of a physician. Those who have said, I've never done this, I've never done that, I should, I always worry about those. There are some people who keep themselves better than other people, but most people don't keep themselves very well. Because even those who kept themselves well fell somewhere else in a category that God looks at the heart. When Jesus says, I will offer you a well of water springing into everlasting life, he was not just simply saying, I'll get you saved and in the gate. He was not just trying to give us the one spiritual law of witnessing. He was trying to say to this woman, I know who you are. I know how we look at you. I'm a Jew. I know how I acknowledge what we look at you as. I acknowledge that you need a whole lot more. In fact, I even acknowledge that you're worshiping what you do not know what you worship. Verse 22, backing up from the last one I read. Ye worship you know not what. We know what we worship. I know what's wrong and right here. And I'm trying to tell you, I am offering you my spiritual attribute, something you don't have. I'm offering you a chance to walk in the Spirit, live in the Spirit, drink of the Spirit, flow in the Spirit. I'm offering you a well that you cannot get thirsty from, that you will come to and you will drink forever. See, we live in a modern age where we get to turn on the spigot, turn off the spigot, turn on the spigot, turn off the spigot. You know what I'm saying? We are so used to living water coming into our house, into our restaurants. You know, we drive up to the drive-up window to get our living water. I like mine flavored, please, with little brown beads. And a touch of sugar. But if you think about it, from an old world point of view, that's incredible. If I went back to her age and said, if you follow me, I will take you to places where living water flows freely everywhere. She's going to go, what? What, you got 1 billion wells? Are you like really rich, sir? No, I'm just driving down the street, the local drive-thru. Now, catch my point in this. The type is clear. God has so much water available in the earth that if we just figure out how to do the piping, we can get the water wherever we need it, we can irrigate whatever we want, and we can go to the drive-thru to get it flavored with my favorite brown bean. That's how absurd this sentence sounded to her. Dost thou have a well? Please take me to that well. Lady, where we're going, we don't need wells. Where we're going, wells are, well, old technology. Buckets? But do you remember when we used to pull water out by buckets? Hey, a lot of people in the world still are. A lot of people in the world can't get a drop to drink. We spill more water in a day than they'll ever get to see on their plate. Because we have found out how to move the water. We have figured out the pricing to get the water. We have paid the cost to get the water. And we expect to have the water. Because we need it. We will die without it. Why then does the church insist on wells only? Why do we not learn what our piping is supposed to do? Why do we not say, you, are you not Jesus? No, I'm not Jesus. Wait a minute. I swear you put on Christ. Are you not Jesus? Yes, I'm Jesus. I know I'm not Jesus. I don't know what I am. I'm a flesh man, dude. Put on Jesus. You become Jesus. Just for the moment you put him on. The longer you put him on, the longer you become him. And if you become him just for a moment, and it truly is the case, the Father and the Son in you and you to the world, then for a second there, you are the well. You're the pipe. You're the spigot. You're the source. You're the fountain, Book of James says. Just for a second, who cares what your fountain looks like? Look at that fountain over there. Now, you go to some of these old cities with these really incredible fountains. Okay, you know, the ones with the water spewing out of the mouths of lions and horses and coming across the chariots and rolling around in the bowl and coming out. Do you ever walk up to one of those and go down at the base of those fountains and look and go, which ones are chipped? Oh, that brick's chipped. You see that? This is a really old fountain, guys. You see how chipped that one is? And over there, it looks like they, matter of fact, they mortared that one up. They had to replace that whole thing. This fountain is, this fountain. No, you don't. You look at the beauty of the water. Jesus was an unchipped fountain, a perfect fountain, a fountain worthy of alabaster boxes being broken on his feet, a fountain which no man could touch, yet every man must become, not by mortaring up our old fountains, but by having God replace with heavenly bricks the parts of our fountain, while he is manifesting out the water out of us. This is spiritual. Oh my goodness, I've only made it through one verse. Do you know that I have 8 more verses to this segment? Oh, I expected the spiritual part to just go by really quick. All I'd have to say is walk like Christ, be sinless, be perfect, and you too are spiritual and holy. Go ahead and do what you got to do. The point here is really simple. Out here we have an ocean. That ocean is called God. In here we have a portal, a hole that allows us to be spiritual. And all we have to do is be like Jesus, to walk in the Spirit and let him loose. Spiritual is not a state of mind, but a state of transfer of God to man, that we might fulfill his plan and become like the man that we are exempling ourselves after. And in the end, we will stand before him and we will see that we have put on Christ to the point where now we have become like Christ, spirit, you will. And the end result of that is we will walk and live and be forever with God, who is spirit, because we have been conformed into the likeness and image of God through the likeness and image of Christ to which we were conforming. And the end result of that is attribute number 3, part A. Living water Christians instead of old, well, Jacobean Christians. Instead of the last revival, it is into the next revival, and we're not even there yet. We're not even there yet. But we will get there. They may say of us, we perceive thou art a prophet. And we will say, no, we are just a source. We are just a vehicle to the source. And some of us may be prophets, but that's a tough road. That's a tough road. Let us just be, for the moment, prophetic. Let us, for the moment, be of the Spirit. Let us, for the moment, be full-flowing Christians. Christians. Real Christians. Not pseudo-Christians like the one I mentioned at the beginning of this message. Past life regressionies. Not New Agey Christians, those who follow spirit with a little s. Let us be Christians, true spiritual manifestations of God in Christ. Thank you, Lord, for this message. Bless the rest of it next time.